Okay, we're live. Welcome to How to Build Your Own Home every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. or thereabouts. We have live chat here where you can ask a realtor and ask the builder questions about how to build your own home and what to do, where to start, all that kind of stuff. All right. Right now, there's a lot of starts going, at least a lot of students that I know are actually in the process of building, and a lot of them are starting to build. You'll find that the market for owner builders is a little different than the regular market. And I'll explain why as a result, because owner builders are probably more informed than the regular buyer of a home. They're looking at every variable. They're looking at the cost of the land, they're looking at the cost of the build, they're looking at the market, where things are, that kind of thing. And it's a lot more detailed. There's a lot more involved. And as a result, they're more informed. And if an owner builder has been studying things for the past year or so, they know that right now is a really good time to build. And why is that? Because labor costs are flatlined and a lot of people are hungry. It's not that great of a market to sell a home, but it is a great market to build a home. And people have a hard time with that. It's something that it took me several cycles, economic cycles, to understand. When I saw that there was either war or there was inflation or there was an issue, a lot of people will pull back. But that's when a lot of other smart people would lean into the situation. Back in 2008, I went through that. I went through the issues in the 1979 when they had the oil embargo and all of the costs that incurred massive inflation. We had double-digit inflation. We also had double-digit interest rates. Can you imagine paying an interest rate of over 18% on a home? That's what they were facing back then. And it was all designed to curb inflation. Inflation was so high that it was done to curb the inflation. And I can go into a lot of the details on that. I just want to help you understand one thing. When a lot of people pull back, there are other people who lean into opportunities because they see things differently. When there's a market such as we have right now, where it's not really a seller's market for homes in the majority of the market throughout the United States, it's really kind of more of a buyer's market, but buyers aren't really buying, even though the prices are down and whatnot. But it's a really good opportunity for owner builders, especially if you wanted to ever cash flow and have the capacity to cash flow the build of your own home. Now is a good time, especially if we're facing inflation down the road. And there's a lot of indicators that we are facing more inflation. Nothing like what COVID had, unless we have another pandemic, which could change things, overnight. Especially if they dump money on the situation to calm everybody down, like they did during the recent pandemic. So I want you to be aware of things like that. The one thing that I'm most aware of is labor, quality labor. And when there's a lot of people interested and hungry for work, that's probably one of the best bargaining chips. Next would be interest rates. The next would actually be the cost of oil, which affects the cost of materials and transportation and delivery of materials. Too often, people get hung up on the cost of materials only. And I'm going to give you a really, really good example. I'm on the planning commission for my county, and they pitched a new code for the county, and it was for rammed earth homes. Okay. And people get excited about rammed earth homes. Why? Because the material is pretty much cheap. I mean, it's just earth with a little bit of Portland cement. But you have to build up the forms, and it's extremely labor intensive. So people will trade off no cost for materials, almost no to zero cost from materials, and quadruple the labor on something. And that's not rational. And I see owner builders make that mistake all the time. is they think, oh, I can do that myself. And as a result, they don't realize the labor intensity of that particular application that they're going after. I want you to think about these things and maybe we can talk about them today, ask questions. Should I build with this? Should I build with that? You have to think in terms of labor costs. What's the real labor involved in building a home out of adobe or rammed earth or just about any of these other technologies that are basically raw earth materials? All right. So these are things to think about. And I think I've seen a lot of people make mistakes of choosing a technology because it's a straw bale home. Oh, it's just straw bale, and we're just gonna pack it nice and tight, and then we're gonna coat it with a bunch of stuff and be good. It's not that easy. Some of these technologies are a lot more labor intensive than you might consider. So I can answer any questions like that. I just wanted to give you some heads up as to what's really going on out there. Let's take some questions before I get way behind in the weeds here. So.
No, Keith, it looks like there's technical difficulty. It looks like one got resolved. So if anybody just reset your computer. But Keith, do you have other things going on? Because it does look pixelated to me sometimes. So can you close out on anything on your computer? Because when you move, it gets really pixelated.
I can close out on some stuff here. I got way too many things going. My kids always make fun of me. Dad, you got to get out of all these apps. They grab my phone on a Sunday and they turn down all my apps. And I'm just closing quite a few now, and that should help. So.
And also, I mean, it doesn't help us right now, but you'll need to restart your computer sometime so it's better. Okay. Hopefully, I think Doug, did that help at all? I'm not sure if that did. It looks like it helped a little on my end.
Okay. Yeah, it looks okay.
Here's a question for you.
What do you see newbie builders for profit mess up on? Really good question. If you're a person that cares a little bit too much and you care about your product, you'll end up giving away a little bit of profit to make somebody happy. But if you don't care about that and you're really focused on just making a good deal for yourself, you're better off. Owner builders or just newbies in construction, you have to really hold the line, and it's hard. I do a lot of quality things on my homes, but a lot of them aren't that expensive. The one thing I do on my homes is I do a better lasting 100-year roof. And I have a lot of satisfaction when I walk away from a home. I do a lot of sealing on the foundations, stuff like that. But I don't get extravagant with a lot of changes during the course of construction. Like I could tell a story. I don't want to tell a story because that person might be watching right now and I don't need to get in trouble. But people make changes at the wrong time, and they make comments at the wrong time, and they give suggestions at the wrong time. So when you are when you're constructing and building something and you've made a decision, you can't get, especially if it's a spec home, you don't want to go back on it unless it's an absolute bad decision, but you need to be able to move forward to get that product on the market. And scheduling and keeping your schedules is going to be kind of key to that. And keeping your build simple and knowing your market. If you are building a home that's 1.5 million and the market can't even handle an $800,000 home, you're shooting up a tree. You're making a mistake. So knowing a lot of those things, the first steps course would help out a lot with that. But I'm just giving you general concepts to think about. And if you have any specific questions, go ahead and ask them.
I've seen a lot of newbie spec builders, and it's their floor plan. The floor plan they do is not the best, and sometimes they tweak it for the next one. So if you can get more eyes on your floor plan before you build, the better, because the flow, typical things, you don't want a bathroom too close to the front door, but it all depends on the size of your build also. And you don't want a bathroom right off the kitchen and dining. Like those I've seen, and lots of wasted space. People hate homes with wasted space. So
Yeah,
those are the
that's
ones
a
that
big.
come to my mind right off the top of my head.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. We have a shout out to a new. I don't think I've seen. This is Steve Edlin.
Stevie
Okay,
Love.
he homes in my parents' house is in is it Waukesha, Wisconsin? Homes are on the
Yeah,
market one day with over asking bids. That's really great. I was just talking to another real estate agent in Idaho, and her market is going strong. Where my market
yeah,
in southern Utah is, it's the weirdest market I've ever been in, and I've been in the market since 2006. And I've been talking to other agents that have been in the market with me. We've seen crashes and stuff, but it's a weird market. People are kind of waiting to see what the interest rate is doing. And then there's a few that are buying. I can't even describe it, but it's a weird market for my area. Really, really inexpensive homes that should have gone quick are on the market. It's a weird market. There's no explanation.
like in our market, it's anything over 1.2 million. It's those are selling better than stuff that's 500,000 or 600,000. It's a
Well, and
really
I have
weird,
one for,
it's a weird market.
yeah, I have one. It's 2 years new and it's only 326,000, and I'm shocked it hasn't gone.
Yeah.
It's a 3 bedroom, two
So,
bath, 2 car garage. Like, I'm shocked. Okay, here we go.
yes,
Here
knowing
is
your market is really key. This is Michael Livinitsky, Omniblock Home in Virginia. Structural Mason is offering labor only bid. Wants me to order materials. Red flag or opportunity, anything to consider. That's not a red flag. He knows his strength. And so he wants to just make sure he's not over, under, or eating it in the shorts. So what I would do is you can work with Denny on this, and he's going to be on our show soon here, and ask him the amount of concrete you need for that design, and he can calculate that out for you. And then ask him to calculate the amount of rebar needed. Okay, then those two factors will tell you. And then you're going to need a pump probably 2 or 3 different times to pump that concrete into the cells at the various points of where you need to have inspections. Talk with your local building official and ask them, how many inspections do you need, or can we just move forward with this and you guys are going to be okay? And find out. A lot of them want to see that rebar on the horizontal bond beam section, especially, and the first run. They're going to want to see those rebar verticals, and they're going to want to see the rebar horizontal. So then he can help you understand how much you need of the concrete, how much you need of this, and that's the materials, and then the rest of it's the Omniblock itself, and then the mortar, and he can help you figure out the total amount of mortar. So once you know those 3 or 4 costs of the materials, then your guys can help out with that. And you'll have to factor in some J bolts up at the top and a lot of other miscellaneous. If you're interested, give me if you want to do a consult on that before you start, before you budget, I can go over a lot more details on that. But it's not that hard when you really kind of wrap your head around it. You'll be able to figure out the cost on all the materials. And you can even ask the mason and double check with him and say, I know you're not bidding this out, but could you give me a best estimate as to the mortar, rebar, concrete I will need? And I got it from Denny. You might want to get a second opinion from him, and it might be a good thing to do. So yeah, it's not a red flag. I've seen a lot of guys say, this is new to me, but it's in my wheelhouse, so I'll do it, but I can only bid labor. So it's not a red flag. Wall hung toilets, yay, nay, higher end name brands, of course. Yes, but your framing structure has to be a little
built
beefed
for
up.
it.
You can't do it. You can't do it on a 2x4 wall. you really need to do it on a 2x6 wall, and you have to plan for that. And on top of that, the drainage has to hit dead center inside that wall where that toilet's going to be. So the plumber has to be on target, and your foundation crew has to be on target. And on top of that, those toilets come with heavy duty metal brackets that actually go right into the, if it's a slab on grade, it'll go right into the slab and for anchoring it. It's a lot of work. Is it worth it? I love them because the cleanup over the years is just really sweet. Very efficient, and you don't have, you just mop underneath there. You don't have to get underneath there to wipe around the toilet because it's all on the wall. And so my grandfather did those toilets on a bed and breakfast he did on one of his buildings, and they're just still operating today. They're quiet whisper toilets. They're great. And you find that some technologies were great 30 years ago. But again, those toilets had heavy beefed brackets that were built into the framework, and it was a 2x6 wall. So there's a little planning that you have to work with your framer, and perhaps a little planning you have to work with your slab on grade if it's a slab on grade. So, but they're really cool. So.
Brady brought up a good point. I wanted to bring up his new builders and some experienced ones mess up on estimating the most. That's true. From what I see, big deal if you're building for profit. Yeah, the budget. You got to know your budget.
I'll add that. I'll add one thing to Brady's comment because that's quite right on target. Too many people try to save at the budget phase, and you have to be realistic. You have to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do worst case scenario. I'm going to go overly cautious. I'm going to have estimates and contingencies here, here, and here, and here. And I'll tell you the story, okay? And I do this with my clients, and most of them realize halfway through the build what I've done. I worked in the restaurant industry a long time ago, and my maitre d', his name was Richard, and he was booking and booking and booking and slamming the restaurant, putting all the waiters and captains in the weeds. Quality went out the window, and he didn't care. And people who made reservations would show up, but he'd still tell them 45 minutes. He wasn't doing the restaurant any good favors. It was all fine dining, all tableside dinner. It was phenomenal. It was tuxedo, the whole works. I was the host. And so Mike came to my stand, and he says, Keith, come here. Where's Richard? I go, he's out there flirting with girls. That's what he would do. He's in the hotel lobby. So he put some fake names in the reservation book, and he put a dot by each of those names. And he looked at me and he said, this is quality control. And so I never forgot that. When I worked in the nonprofit sector, my CEO was constantly pushing the budget down. And he was over budget 16 to 18,000 on all of his homes that he was managing, that he was building. When I took over the program, I knew about the story, and I said, it's not going to happen to me. So I had some dots. I put some dots in there. I put contingency and padding in the areas I knew I had risk. And if you don't do that, you're going to be over budget, and you're going to be frustrated and possibly having a second mortgage on your home. You don't want that. So make sure you know that you can handle the budget, but make sure you also put everything in the budget that you need. And I always ask for a 10% contingency at the bottom line. I've gone as low as 5%. And when clients do that, I start putting dots in the budget. And when you're 10%. Doing that, you now know, like I had an issue where something was over, and I wasn't worried about it because I know that one of my other numbers was a hard fixed number, and I'm going to be able to save $8-9 grand from that and move it back into this other number. It's such a flexibility. It's such a relaxing thing to know that you've got padding or you've got contingency in your budget. But if you think you can build a home, even a tract home, with absolute precision in budgeting, you're barking up a wrong tree. There's always something different. There's always something that comes up. There's always something you need to never even factored for. So yes, I don't need to belabor it, but that's a big issue, is not estimating and not setting the budget right.
What do you think is the first, or what do you think is the biggest one that takes up contingency? So they should overestimate on for their budget.
Excavation.
Yep.
Especially for owner
I'm
builders. Most of the homes that owner builders build are not in a tract home environment. They're just a parcel of land that they've acquired, and then they've got to bring utilities to it, and they're not factoring in the dirt work. They're not factoring in the utilities. And that can eat into your contingency like that. And so undeveloped land is a big risk if you really don't know what you're doing. That's why I strongly recommend consult with me and give me the topo of the land. I can go over stuff with you and tell you where some hiccups are going to be at. But yeah, that's a big one.
And we're going to do a shout out for Kai. So, hey everyone, Kai here. We are 60% complete with our metal shingle install. Went through 9,000 screws so far. That's a lot. Hope this will last 1,000 years, because I would hate to be the people removing it.
Yeah, very cool. That's awesome.
Good job on that. We want pictures.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, here we go. C. Manning.
Thoughts on floating floor over slab. I'm going to stop you right there. Don't do it, and I'll explain why. 4-inch slab, then 4-inch of insulation, and then 2 layers of 20 through 32 subfloor. Have you seen this? I wouldn't recommend the subfloor over that slab. You're going to have some issues with condensation. The insulation below the slab is fine, but I don't like floating floors at all. Never have. The only floating floor I like is the luxury vinyl, because it has an ability to just contour to the floor just a little better than a laminate. Laminate is rigid, and it has. Have you ever been into an old chapel or an old basketball court in an old high school, and there's dead spots in it? It's kind of like a laminate flooring. It's a floating floor. There's just dead spots. It's not hugging to the floor. It's not glued down, but a vinyl floor has an elastic nature to it, and it's going to settle down to it a lot better. So I don't like floating floors that are laminate. I don't mind them if they're vinyl. But I've seen people do that subfloor. You have to glue it down. I don't recommend it. And 3.5, 3/4 inch is not much to nail something to. Think about it. If you're going to nail that floor down, you only got 3/4 inch to put that nail in, which is not much. Okay, good question.
Here we go.
How are brickies priced? Some are quoting per brick, and some are estimating the job. What is the best way to price a brickie? What is included and what's not? I'm assuming you're saying a brick wainscot or a brick fascia on a home. Typically, it's square foot, not per brick. And so if you can get a bid on per square foot on the install, and that they include the mortar, but you cover the price for the brick and other miscellaneous clips and stuff you might need, then that might be good. But try to get them down to a per square foot, not per brick. That's kind of crazy. Okay, Steve Lund, 7357. What has been your experience with type 1L green concrete? A lot of masonry contractors are complaining about cracks and flat work. There's cracks and flat work because they don't do a control cut joint soon enough within about 18 hours. 14 hours during a dry, hot summer, about 18 hours in cooler temperatures. If they do that control cut, it should actually eliminate or control the place of that crack. And I like control cuts on 4 foot on center rather than 10 foot on center. That's just my take. I've done them both ways, but if you do a slab without any control cuts, you're going to see the cracks. It's not a matter of if, but when concrete cracks, it's going to crack. Just imagine a super rigid platform like that that's got a very rigid tensile strength, and it's concrete, and it's 30 feet that way and 40 feet that way. It's going to crack. It's going to settle. It just can't hold the weight. It's going to crack. That's what concrete does. So getting some control cuts in there. And then with regard to the concrete, um, you can reinforce it with fiberglass. If that's the only product you have locally, you can throw some, and you can order a bag of fiberglass flakes, and you can get them online. And you get maybe 2 or 3 bags, and when the cement truck arrives, say, "Hey, please throw this in your mix and mix it for a couple of minutes, and get some extra reinforcement in there with some fiberglass." That actually helps too. Uh, it's just some of the tricks of the trade. But and one of the tricks I do is I try not to do too shallow of a slab on the driveways or even in the garage. All my garages that I have poured by my subcontractors, not one is cracked. I pour it 4 to 4.5 inches thick. I put a lot of chat underneath it, and we do rebar and we do a control cut on it. And all my garages look really, really sharp. I'll have micro cracks in the slab, but a lot of that's covered with glue down floor. It's covered with carpet or something like that. So it's not much of an issue, but you can ameliorate that with control cuts. And they have to be 3/4 of an inch down into the concrete. It's not going to do well if it's not that deep. And I've seen guys cut it by hand, and that cut goes up and down and up and down through the slab. And it's not a continuous, easy, natural partition for a crack to happen at. That has to be 3/4 of an inch down, and it has to be continuous all the way through that slab. And you can help control that cut, that crack that's going to happen. Good question. Do you have any experience with Elgin or Coco septic system? Ooh, I don't know. I'd have to research that. I don't. If I knew visually what they are, let me look here. Elgin or Coco septic. Elgin. Using my one's a sand filter. I'm not a fan of sand filters. If it requires a sand filter, that's the particulates in a sand filter are too dense, and you can have not enough solids that can penetrate through that sand. Better treatment quality, the poor soils. Yeah, if you have poor soils. High groundwater, tighter lots, environmentally sensitive areas. Weaknesses, more engineering sensitive. Sand media installation must be exact. That's very true. I love the pea gravel or a larger aggregate because you got more porous material for a lot of any particular solids that might get through. Most of the solids are going to get stuck in the septic tank, and the leach fields is, or the sand is what you're talking about. So, and then you can type in on a search engine that particular question, and it has not just a search, but Chat GTP, and you'll get a lot of different references and sources and stuff like that. A lot of them are designed for difficulty soils. That's if your perk test is designing it that way. But I didn't find anything on the other one. I just found it on the Elgin, not the other one. I'd have to look at your geotech report to kind of tell. And again, this is where some foresight is really, really recommended. If you download the home site selection checklist, which is free, you can see that geotech and perk test requirement. You see what I'm talking about? Owner builders are building in unincorporated rural land, and most owner builders are in a septic environment. Very few of them are in a city or a subdivision or a tract home situation. Most of them are just outskirts, and they want that opportunity. So you're going to run into a septic. And so when you do buy a piece of land, you're going to want to make sure that you have that perk test. You're going to want to make sure you have that geotech. and then have a geotech engineer walk you through it. Go to their office and say, hey, can you explain what this is going to require and what the difficulties I might run into? And these are things to know before you start. Okay.
Peter
Also
Hobbs is a
on
good.
wall,
Oh, what?
protect the in-wall tank with,
Oh,
go back to
sorry.
protect
Yep.
with meat sheet metal to prevent sliding nails going through it. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that. You actually put some sheet metal on there. Helps out quite a bit.
Here we go. From
If a new build
Alexis.
around me is $330K for three halves,
3 bedroom, 2 bath.
three, yeah, 1,500 square feet. What is a healthy margin for a newbie contractor to build to sell? It would be builder grade material. If it's being sold for that, then take off at least 10% on that cost, which is $333,000. That's probably what the builder fee is. And then if you can take off, you don't want to take off the realtor fee because you're probably going to get a realtor to help sell it. So I would subtract 10% off that fee, off that cost. And that's what you can build it for. And then if you can sell it for 33,000 over that, that's what you can sell it for as well, and for what you can build it for. That's what the First Steps course does. It walks you through that calculation. But I'm making an assumption.
Yeah.
The assumption is that the builders in your area are charging 10% or 13 or 15 or 18 or 23%. I don't know what your builders are charging in your particular area. In my area, it's a wild range. It's such a wild range. I know builders that do spec multi-million-dollar homes, and they're probably, I think, around 60 to 80% of the total cost to build. They're marking it up that much. Some even more than that. I know some builders that are 23 and 25%. I know builders that eat their shorts at 7%. I've built for 10% and 13 to 15%. That's about my range based upon how far the home is built out, the complexity of the home. If it's a remodel, it's 15%. If it's a really simple situation and it's kind of a low income situation, I might help out somebody once in a while, that's 10%. Or others, it's 13%. So I'm in that range, but I don't know where your range is and where builders are actually charging and what that fee is. And once you know that fee, that rough fee, then you can subtract it from that. If it's a like for like, a home that is a like for like, then you can subtract that and know that you can probably build a builder grade home for that price.
Yeah. Yeah. We have one person that we know that told us about charging, but he only does homes over 3 million, and his breakdown is 10% profit, 10% for liability and fees and just cost of doing business, and then 3% wiggle room above the 10% of what's the word? Room. I just forgot the wiggle room for the build. Like
contingency.
Yeah, so he's really high, but you're looking at just a new, starter home, 1,500 square feet. Your numbers are probably going to be a little bit tighter because I know here locally, those smaller homes, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So it'll depend on your area.
Yeah.
Okay. This is just a comment from Lindsay. Scheduling and budgeting is what scares me the most. That's why at How to Build Your Own Home, Keith has an awesome budget we've used for years, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brother's a finance guy and he's reviewed it, and he works with commercial building and regular home building and luxury building, and he reviewed it. And so we feel like it's pretty good. So that should give you a good feel. And then,
I have a particular checklist that's called the build flow checklist. And it's not a checklist; it's just the build flow, and it handles stem wall, slab on grade, walkout basement, and omniblock. And so it gives you that flow of what comes next. And if you have that and you've taken the course, I think it's in the download section, I can't remember, but it's like 6 pages long. And it gives you that flow. What should you look for next? And if you got that on your clipboard and you're out there on a job site and you've got that with you, it can act as a reminder, a really good reminder on what comes next. So that solves for your scheduling. And then if you use the budget that I've got where I have dots, key contingencies in a couple of key areas that will really help with your actual build, you shouldn't have any fear at all. Okay.
oh, Brady has another good point. I always see budget overruns in finishes. People like luxury, but don't realize how quick it adds up. For sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a good thing there is a lot of people don't know. Like my daughter and I, when we run a home, we don't really have time to get every single thing budgeted, but we know the high end cost of things. So, for example, countertops will probably go around $64 to $68 a square foot, and that allows them to pick just about any slab they want and put that on their counters. But if you're budgeting at $35 a square foot, and then you find something else, so that's going to be a cost overrun. And same thing with flooring. If you have a flooring allowance for yourself and you ask around and you say, okay, I love this flooring. What would it cost per square foot to put that in? They go, well, that's running this and that. Same thing with decks. I have a deck gentleman who installs decks for me. He's $18 a square foot, flat out every single deck for his builders. So that's what his builder cost is. So I know these numbers, and if you know those numbers, then you can calculate them and put them in a budget without an actual estimate. And but there's some things you can't do that on, plumbing, electrical, foundations, framing, etc. You need some really close, hard numbers on there. But there's stuff on finishes that it's not that hard to kind of know what those costs are per square foot and put those in as a high allowance. And then you can save against the budget and say, oh, we didn't spend it all that much, but we had it there in case we wanted to, but now we just decided not to. So
this is a good point.
I'll let you read this.
For us, we didn't budget how much more a tight build would cost with all the building science. And that took over. It's kind of like the luxury. It's extra.
Right. Yeah, when you're trying to add a few things to the home, to the quality of the home, that's another factor. Good comment. If you want to stand out as a production builder, where would you spend more money on finishes, or exterior or interior? Really good question. I would spend more money on the layout because people are not going to be too concerned about the finishes. They're going to be concerned about the space utilization. That when people walk into a home, when I walk into a home and it's kind of a low grade carpet or just a vinyl or whatever, but if it's laid out right, that's the most appealing thing to me. And the real focus after layout, you've got all the storage space, all the utilized space that you could ever imagine. It's the kitchens and bathrooms, specifically the kitchen and master bathroom. That's where you focus the most effort because that's what women look at first, and women buy homes. Guess what men look at? Every time a man goes into a house, the one thing he looks into that a woman never looks into is the garage. He will literally go in there, he'll look at the garage door, and he'll look at this span of distance beyond the garage door. Mm-hmm. I just did a video, got posted this week. Watch that video, what my daughter did on the design of a home. It's a spec home that she's doing with my son Parker. And look at the garage and look how well they laid that out. They laid it out by a race car driver. And that's what a man will look at. We've already got people interested in the home. And so these are things to look for a man. It's super simple. For women, kitchen, master bath, and you can go very affordable on the flooring and all the finishes, but those are the things they're looking at the most. And then of course design and touches and paint colors and stuff like that. Those are kind of big. Three-tone paint would be nice. If somebody has a really sharp eye, they will look up at the ceiling and they'll say, oh, there's a nice transition. It's caulked up there. I've got flat paint on the ceiling, and then I've got a nice satin on the walls, and they can see that transition. It's nice and clean. And those aren't too costly to do. A real typical builder grade would just throw the same paint up everywhere and not care. And so if you have those subtle care things, some people might look at them. And then, of course, one of the things that most people never consider is that front door. That front door is a seller. And I put very high-end doors on my home. And I have an allowance, and it can go from $3,000 to $8,000 on a front door. I put in front doors that are north of $15,000. I'm not saying spend that much, but rather than get a really cheap fiberglass door at a box store for $800, you could pick something up that's $1,600 or $2,200, and it's a real sharp, really definitive door. When people come to that house, they have a feeling that it's quality. They have a feeling that this is different. So I guess my wife may have some comments, but just a couple of things that came off my head.
I do. As a real estate agent, and if you are a production builder and you want to stand out, if your land permits, definitely the garage to be able to put a longer truck in. Because if you've got your buyers that are in the trades and that, they need a big truck, they need it in the garage, they need it secure. So that would make you stand out. Nobody's doing that here locally. And I think that would be a big deal. The thing is the garage doesn't count for square footage, but it would sell. And a must for a production builder, you have to have a half bath on the main. You have to figure it out. Put it under the stairs, whatever it is. Put a half bath on the main. And I would say those two. And then for the women, of course, the kitchen, you're going to look at the kitchen first before the bathrooms. But the kitchen, if you could, if you could have the soft close drawers, that's nice. It doesn't really make you stand out. I mean, in our area, it does. We've got a lot of production builders and they don't have the soft close drawers and that. And one of the big production builders here locally, I had an investor buy 3 homes in this one community. And from the start to the finish, I saw it change. They went from, so the first one had quartz counters and hardware on the cupboards, on the cabinetry. The height of the baseboards were like 6 inches. And it was nice. But by the third one, the baseboards have shrunk. There's no hardware on the cabinetry. And now they're using Formica on the countertops. And I don't think the buyers are noticing too much about the Formica, and that will probably save you a bunch. And so it just depends, because I know other production builders here, that's quartz or granite is a must for their basic production build. So if you can get a good price for a stone countertop, then I would definitely do that. I'd probably do that before the soft close drawers. That's what I'm seeing. And you can put in their hardware and sometimes smart features. That's a big thing. But the garage, if you could do that, I know nobody's doing here that could fit. What is it, 22? You want it 22 feet long because 21-foot trucks?
No, it needs to be at least 30. It needs to be 30 feet at the very, very least, because trucks are 22 to 23 feet long with a hitch. So that only gives you 2 to 3 feet to walk around it. So if you can get close to 30, 32 feet on the depth of the garage, and then you have another 3-4 feet beyond it, that just allows for an attic truss configuration up above. It's either that or a 3-car garage. That 3rd car garage is a real seller. It's a real positive.
That 3rd car garage is a seller. But if you had to do just two-car garage, just make sure it's 23 feet deep. because I
Yeah,
know the ones here, they're not even that. I want to say they're 18 to 20 deep. They're not for
that's only
production.
for a
But
city,
that's
and
that's my
I can't even pull my truck in to any of those. My house
Yeah, those
I
aren't being
built.
pulled in. That's that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, is that I've had people
yeah.
not buy the home because they can't pull their truck in. And that's what's
Yeah.
going on. Garage is a big deal, and nobody's thinking
The
of that.
layout, garage and the layout. Make sure it's open space and there's a lot of room for everything. But if you start cutting that thing up, it's going to be harder to sell.
Okay.
Okay,
This
good
is
question.
a brick claddie is a bricklayer, and he's building in Canada. From that goes back there.
Yeah, get them to do cost per square foot, and it's probably brick and mortar rather than a sheet cladding product. And if it's a full-on brick and mortar and clipping against the substrate, that's fine. But I get him to do a cost per square foot. No, not per brick. That's crazy. Because then they cut the bricks up and they charge you for that. Do you do
Okay.
5 to 15% contingency on each line item? No, I don't do that. In the budget I have, if you've downloaded it, it has key areas where I add a total of 10% contingency over the total build, plus 3% in framing labor, and a couple of other areas, big ticket items. And I'm usually very safe when I do those budgets. So when you download the budget, you'll see where I actually put all that.
Okay.
You're using
This
the
is
same
from
budget I use.
okay. This one, sorry, I didn't mean if I cut you off, but this is from Lynn. I think last week she was the one that was having trouble with the subs. I hope this is because this is what it says. Oh, I did what you guys recommended and set up my website. Hopefully that helps in bringing more quotes. And also, I hope you remember to put the sign and all accepting all trades. That will be a good one too. So I hope that works out for you.
Cool.
And okay, C Manning, best flooring for slab on grade. We like the look of wood floors.
Yeah, glue down wood floor. I like some high-end luxury vinyl, and I've done that as well, but I would never do a floating floor on slab on grade. I just don't like floating floors. When you do a glue down floor, tile is not bad either, but when you do a glue down floor, you can put cabinets on it and everything, and it just makes it really clean. If you do a floating floor, you can't. You have to put the floating floor against the cabinetry, and then you have to do a piece of trim, kickboard or 1/4 inch round trim at the bottom of that. It just looks ugly. So, and it changes the height of your counters too, almost by 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and that's a big thing for some people. So, anything that you can put your cabinetry on is my preference.
Okay, analog digital, they make a good point. On our build, the things that cost the most are the stuff that you don't want to see, not the appliances, tile, or countertop, but we prioritize our spend on stuff I never want to see again. So true. Like build it strong, give it good bones, right?
Yeah, like the first home I built in a cul-de-sac and I built it with 2x4. And every time somebody shut that front door, the entire home rattled. Literally, the entire home rattled. And I was really sad about that. And I wish I would have made a stronger home that didn't rattle and when you shut the door. These are things that I notice. And when I build a home, like this home here, I have a front door here. It's a heavy glass front door. I can shut that door and you'll hear it, but you don't hear it change the pressure in the home. You don't hear it rattle everything else around because I've got such a thick wall with insulation on the outside, etc. So these are things that I love to do. I love to do a roof that I will never have to touch, my kids will never have to touch, and their kids will never have to touch. I've seen people do asphalt shingle roofs 15, 20 years ago, and they're replacing that roof again in just 15, 20, 25 years. I've built homes 20 years ago, and the roofs still look brand new. That to me is far more valuable than the cheapest you can do. I've seen people replace tile roofs. My son, in his HOA community, they replaced the tile roof with the same crappy tile. And that's supposed to be a live tile. That's supposed to last 50 years. Did it last 50 years? No, not even close. And I feel sad that people just dump money and dump money and dump money into things. And that initial cost might be more, but once you have that cost, it's never going to give you a problem. You're going to be, that to me is being able to go to sleep at night and rest. I love that feeling. So, like if I had asphalt shingles on a roof, I go, oh no, it's a lot of snow. Oh, there's a lot of grit in the rain gutter. I hope it's going to dry. I think about all of these things. And so if you can put a better product on your home, then you take away stress, worry, uncertainty. You take it away. Like we were evacuated from our home last July. Okay. Despite how
June 19th.
June 19th, despite how bad the fire was and so many homes burnt down, I felt really good walking away from my home. There were some weak spots on my home I said a prayer for, but for the most part, I knew what I built, and I knew that when I walked away, I was more worried about other people's homes, and they all burnt down. All the homes to that cul-de-sac, 7 homes burnt down, and all the homes in this cul-de-sac, plus 2 homes being up. It was bad. And we were the only ones left standing. I don't take pride in making people feel bad about that, but I am confident that when we walked away, I pretty much had a real good feeling about what was built. And to me, that's more powerful than anything. So
yeah, there were 19 structure and 13 homes that burnt.
13 homes. And then when the flood came, I felt the same way. And we had a flood came up against the house. So
yep. Okay, this is a good question by JC.
Let's see, is the black and white farmhouse still the main trend of outside design? Or what's the most current trend? My wife knows that better than I do.
Okay. Yeah, farmhouse is not the current trend anymore. That one is going out. What's now the trend is modern traditional. And with stone, so natural colors, stone, it's still the lighter color, at least in my area. This is what's going on. The lighter color stone. I do know that I put up, there are some people out there wanting more color, but right now the trend here for us, and I do try to keep up with the trends nationally with some national building and architecture, but it's a modern traditional style with lighter colors, more natural colors from woods and stones, but it's still lighter. But I do see it possibly starting to turn to some like greens and reds. So some really rich colors. There are some homes that are going to have some of that. I don't know if it's going to stay, but I've seen a few pop up. But right now it's lighter. But not farmhouse, that's going away. Let's see. Okay. Thanks, Hold'em. MG. Yeah, hit the like button. That always helps. We appreciate it. Like, that's what you can do for us. And what makes us shout for joy is give a thumbs up, and so it can be shared and we can spread the word and help lots of people. Okay.
Yeah, please do that.
Let's see. David Parker. I thought if I could produce a solid gold house, I could replicate it, but I would have to gain a much higher comprehensive in that to ever venture.
It's not that
hard. Like if there's one floor plan that we're doing right now that I think is amazing. And it's using attic trusses in the floor plan. And I love it. I think it could be used.
We have floor plans we're uploading in the next week. We have 2 more plans
Yeah,
we're
we've
uploading in the
started it
next week.
actually today. We
Okay.
started uploading it.
So
We're
we're
just working the details on the back. We got approval for 2
yeah.
more plans to go on our website. Keith,
And I
I think
have
we
my
should.
architect. I talked with an architect, my architect, and I designed a plan a long time ago. I never got to build. I always wanted to build. He's actually redesigning that plan, and it is a plan that's phenomenal because it has the potential for an ADU kind of separate from the home, but part of the home. So it's not, you don't have any noise issues. It's completely over the garage. Multi-generational homes are going to be really, really big in the coming years, or additions that accommodate for
Yes.
multi-generational homes. So we're going to have 2 plans, one with 2 ADUs, one with 1 ADU, but either one of those could be multi-generational homes. So we're putting a lot of plans up for that. Plus we have the Sunrise plan, which is a very affordable plan. And we had several people purchase that plan. So we're going to start putting plans up. And what's neat is that you can purchase the plan. All right. It's a base price. And then you have direct contact with our architect, Lonnie. And then Lonnie can do tweaks on it for you if you want for a cost. He can also, for another cost, do the site plan and all the other miscellaneous things ready for your building permit. That's the best package I've ever been able to find. You're not just buying a plan in the dark. You're actually buying a plan and you'll see the architect's name and you'll be able to contact that architect and work out some tweaks if you want. So we're aggressively trying to go after that. And hopefully in the next year, we hope to have 10, 15 plans. And these are plans we built, plans that you've seen actual visuals of on our videos and all that kind of stuff. And even this house we're in, maybe we can throw that one up as well. So we're excited about that. Okay.
Yeah, and I want to do the one across the way too. We need to get that one up. So we need to get approval for that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. This is a good question.
What's the best order of operations for design, arc, structural, then interior design? How to integrate MEP, HVAC with structural? Do you guys pass CAD files back and forth? Can you explain this? Yeah, I'll give you a really good overall. The best order of operations is your floor plan first. Okay. Just don't get so hung up on the outside look. My brother's facing this, and if he's watching, I'm sorry, bro. He designed a home because he wanted it to look a certain way on the outside. But inside, it's not the flow, not the kitchen they want. Now they're doing some remodeling. He's retired, and they probably have some time for that. But do your floor plan the way you want to live inside the home, all right? And just put the outside, the elevations and everything outside your brain just for a little bit. Once you have the floor plan, then you can put a skin on that home, all right? This seems counterintuitive to a lot of people, but trust me, it's the best route to go. Once you've got the architectural done and you're all squared away, then you throw it to the engineer, okay? Do not bring in an MEP, a mechanical, electrical, and a plumbing engineer. Stay away from those. I know some jurisdictions are requiring that, like in some places in California. Fight it, because the architectural will include the electrical, okay? And then the mechanical, which is all your HVAC and all that stuff, that's done ad hoc. Now, you can probably think ahead of the game and be prepared for that. And it's not that hard. In plumbing, you don't need any engineering for that. That's going to fit in the frame structure. What's typically hard is the HVAC, the forced air system. That could be a 9-inch duct, a 10-inch, a 24-inch duct. Trying to fit that through your frame structure. If you plan on, that's why I like attic trusses, because it creates dead space to move all that stuff. That's why I like engineered floor trusses or floor joists, because it allows me, again, to move that mechanical through that open web structure. And if you do that, you can avoid headaches. You don't want to use TGIs. If you know what a TGI is, it's just a web floor joist with 2 pieces of stud on top. And you've got to cut through it to fit everything through it. And you can't cut that big of a hole through it. And if you do, you weaken the floor. So it's these planning that you can eliminate that. And then once you have engineering and the architectural, you can do 3-dimensional 3D stuff with some people. But the CAD file from the architect goes to the engineer. He sends it right to the engineer. He's not going to send it to you. He's going to hold that to himself. He may give you a PDF, but the CAD file will go to the engineer. The engineer uploads that CAD file into his system. He's got all the dimensions ready to rock and roll. Now he does his engineering or structural plans. So when you're all said and done, you've got architectural with elevations showing the outside, inside of the home. And then you've got structural that shows the actual hold downs and all the structural requirements for that home. And that's put together as one full set with the structural on top, architectural behind that. Because when you start building a home, the foundation crew and framing crew, they're going to need the structural. You don't need them tearing through all of those papers just to get to the structural, but the structural on top. And then you can send that whole file as a complete set, as a bid set. And you send that whole file out to people to get bid. And of course, include your geotech engineering with that for those that may need geotech engineering. I hope I didn't over-explain.
Well, and I want to add one thing about at the very beginning with the design, what Keith brought up. Don't worry about the exterior, because even builders, production builders, they give you different, it's called elevations, the front of the house. So it's the same floor plan, but you can pick flat roofs and this, like they can create it. They can create the elevation. They can create the exterior look that you want after your design. So yes, do your design first.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Good comment, sweetie. Let's take a couple more because we're past 6 o'clock. Do you have any idea how much a foundation of a 70 by 70 size house with 14 corners will cost me? I don't. If that's a slab on grade,
North Carolina, or she's in North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. I would ask around, and you can go to a concrete batch plant and ask them what's the concrete per square yard going through, and then I'm going to show you something. Okay. Watch
Here's one more, honey. Here's another part.
I know. I'm going to give me 1 second. I'm going to plug something in to Chat GTP. Okay. That is 600. Go. How many square feet is that? Go back to the first question.
Okay. 70 by 70.
Okay. How much concrete roughly for a 70 by 70
with 14 corners in North Carolina? See if it will do that.
Okay,
maybe they've already done this.
I don't know. A lot of people don't use this. 70 by 70 is 4,900 square feet without any corners. All right, that's a 4-inch slab. That's 60 cubic yards. If it's a 5-inch slab, that's 75 cubic yards. And so you go take your calculator. Let's say a yard, this is hypothetically saying, 160 times $185 a yard. That's $29,000 just for the concrete. All right. So you can figure these things out. It's not that hard. And as far as the foundation crew shouldn't charge you too much on those excessive corners. They're pretty much a per square foot cost. If it has some turn downs and some other funky stuff and step downs and all that, then it can be costly. If there's a recessed shower, that could be a couple $100 extra. But for the most part, it's not hard. You can call a batch plant and you can ask them, what's your typical cost per yard? You know what a yard is? It's a cubic yard of cement. How much is a yard of cement? And then you can figure how many yards you need, and then you can multiply that out, and that's your material cost, not including labor and rebar and some other things. But you can start to pick away at things to figure out what your cost is. Right now, my flat work guy, he's around $850 a square foot, and then less if he doesn't have to come up with the concrete. And you can ask them, what's your cost per square foot on flat work? And they'll tell you. Okay. So I could talk forever on that, But any other last questions we can take? We're past 6 o'clock here.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay. Let's take them. How many and what is the order of most building department inspections? I have a sheet. It's in the download section. Make sure you download it. And it shows you the most common inspections through rough and through finish. And there's a dot for each one of those. Go look at those. Go to your building department and ask them what's your inspections you ask for, and they'll give you a list. They'll all do that. They're very good with that, and that will help you out. But I do have a download in the download section that actually shows that. Okay, if you haven't taken this first steps or self-managed course, you're missing out. There's so much information on there that will, and you just print it all up. Just print up those checklists. There's over 50 checklists. Print them up, and when it comes to plumbing, you print up the plumbing. You go to the job site, you do a checklist, and you're intelligent. You know what to look for. It's really cool. Okay, one or two more questions here. What type of warranty do you offer as a builder? 1 year usually covers what? That's really mechanical warranty. Your liability insurance basically covers all major issues that might happen, which you hope don't happen. And that's good for 1 year. And I don't give a warranty past a year, but your mechanical, plumbing, electrical, all those guys will give a 1 year warranty. Make sure they offer that before you give them the job. And so I've had a job that was finished and there was an electrical problem. I called my electrician. He went there, he fixed it, no charge. And if you're in a builder, what would be really good is what we do is we withhold $2,000 to $5,000, depending upon the cost to build, as a warranty, and we charge that to the client. And so during the course of the year, if they don't use that, then I issue it back. If I like, if I like them, if I don't, I keep it.
If they're paying,
But you see what I'm getting at, is that a warranty is something you don't pay for. A warranty is something that your client pays for. They just like it's like you go to a car dealer, and if you want a warranty, it's going to be part of the price. If you want an extended warranty, it's going to be part of the price. So include that warranty.
most builders offer a 1 year warranty.
1 year warranty is all they do.
And there are some companies out there that offer home warranties on new builds. So like in Utah, we have a claimed home warranty, we have Elevate, and they will put a home warranty on a new build. Okay, we have one shout out here. We have a shout out for a newbie, Timothy.
Oh, wow. I just subscribed to the channel. I am new around here, getting everyone. I suppose I will eventually learn what questions to ask. Cool. Welcome aboard. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. If that's it. Anything else?
If you need anything, or reach out to us at howtobuildyourownhome.com. We're there for you. So glad everybody came.
Yeah. We'll be back here next Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Have your questions ready and we'll have some fun. You guys take care until then.
Okay. See ya.